With reaction, New York Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Congresswoman, good morning to you.
Good to be with you.
You know, so there you have Speaker Pelosi saying going back to school represents the biggest risk for the spread of the coronavirus. Not true, we know now, but back then, politically, had they kept the schools open, you know, that would have helped reopen the economy much faster.
Absolutely, and it's very concerning. The media has been picking who they want to listen to and who they want to ridicule. Many medical and health officials have recommended how important it is for our students to stay in school. And we know that from earlier this year when schools were shut down, we saw increases in child abuse cases, we saw increases in domestic violence, and we also saw decreases in students' testing results. We need to ensure our kids are safely learning in person. We've learned a lot about what works and most importantly, what doesn't work when it comes to remote learning. In my district, we are continuing to work with superintendents, principals, teachers, parents to make sure kids can safely learn in school. But it really highlights the double standard in the media. You know, they continue to praise everything Dr. Fauci says, even if it's the same thing that health experts like Dr. Atlas said earlier this year.
Let's talk about the coronavirus relief package, the next one, because so many businesses need that money. Mitch McConnell's putting pressure on Nancy Pelosi. Listen to this.
There's no reason, none, why we should not deliver another major pandemic relief package. Speaker of the House gambled that if American families didn't get any more relief before the election, her party would expand its majority in the House, but their all-or-nothing obstruction backfired. Now, there's only one remaining question for the Speaker and the Democratic leader. Will they finally let Congress pass hundreds of billions of dollars of relief on all the subjects where we agree?
And even Joe Manchin said he's willing to work with Republicans. He thinks that $1.2 trillion is acceptable, which is half of what his party was pushing. What's going on in the House?
I think Mitch is exactly right. Speaker Pelosi has walked away again and again and again from negotiations. There are a number of provisions that we agree on. For example, additional aid to small businesses who are continuing to suffer, particularly as we head into this holiday and retail season. Direct support for K-12 schools. That legislation would be signed into law today or yesterday if Speaker Pelosi would negotiate in good faith. Instead, she played politics leading up to the election, and she lost. She lost every single toss-up seat in the country. Republicans have picked up numerous seats. We're continuing to pick them up with an Iowa House seat and a California House seat. She is losing her leverage by the day. And I think the reality is if she can get her votes for Speaker, which is still an open question, she is controlled by the far left in AOC. So she's going to have to go to them to get their approval. I'm working with Leader McConnell and my colleagues in the House to continue to pressure Pelosi to get back to the table on behalf of the American people and deliver that important aid for our small businesses, our families, our schools, and our hospitals.
And Congresswoman, she was getting pressure from moderates in her own party to get this done. They had a better sense of the electorate than she did. Obviously, she fell flat on her face. She says she's going to widen her margin. It didn't happen. It shocked everyone, including the Cook report. The sticking points, liability protection. The Dems don't want it. But how do you expect a company to vote to bring their people back if they're going to get sued if one person gets it? And state and local government funding is going to be key. The Democrats want, and Republicans have not been for. So we'll see if you do things the way we do in life. You negotiate it, whether you're buying a house or buying a car. What about this brawl that's going on between the House and Senate among Democrats? You got Joe Manchin, who evidently is in a little war with AOC, your New York colleague. He says, he said this. He thinks, said this about moderates. Says, I think we have a golden opportunity to bring the country back together and for us to work in middle. I'll tell you the reason why. The numbers are so close with what the Democrats' House members lost. For Nancy Pelosi, she's going to have to work with people that have a moderate view than some people that have pushed her from the left. And, of course, she's going back and forth with AOC on this, and that he said that AOC doesn't push any legislation. All she does is push her Twitter account. So what's your reaction to that? Is that just spitting into the wind, or could you guys actually be negotiating in the House?
Well, we are negotiating. The people who aren't negotiating are the far left and, frankly, Nancy Pelosi. As Speaker of the House, she has walked away from numerous negotiations. And because her margin is so slim, Brian, she's going to have to go and say, Mother, may I, to any bill she brings to the floor. She has to ask the squad, and by that I mean far left progressives like AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib,
Right.
and that's not reflective of the American people, particularly after this electoral loss that Democrats face.
Right.
They ran on far left platforms such as defunding the police, such as shutdowns, and that didn't resonate with the American people, which is why Republicans did so well, despite what pollsters and despite what Cook Political Report said. So while Joe Manchin is right that it's an opportunity, I am very concerned that Speaker Pelosi is going to continue being the most liberal speaker that this country has ever seen. And the country deserves better than that. They deserve a COVID relief bill. We are ready to work. We are ready to work with the Senate. It's just Speaker Pelosi. Even Joe Biden has asked Speaker Pelosi to deliver a bill. And that's an interesting question over whether Speaker Pelosi is going to work with Joe Biden or continue to focus on getting her speaker's vote, which means she needs the progressive far left.
That's a great question. All right. Congresswoman, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Straight